So hi again. Hopefully you guys enjoyed my last video about scores, LSAT, GRE, and GPA. And for this video, I kind of wanted to explore the whole idea behind how do you choose what schools you even want to apply to. Now there's definitely no formula, no set way, but I think to start off, the first things you should consider are things that you considered pretty much during undergrad. What type of environment do you like? Do you like a more urban environment? Do you like a more suburban environment? Do you like a small class in campus? Do you like a large class in campus? I think in law school in particular, it's also very important to consider where you're going to be going, where you're going to be practicing after law school. So, as you might know, you're going to end up taking the bar for a specific state that you want to practice in. So oftentimes people just take the bar for the state that they went to law school in. So it makes things a little bit easier. That's not to say you couldn't go to a school in a different state and take a bar in a completely other state, but it makes life easier if you're taking the state bar in the state that you went to law school in. So that's another important consideration. For me, I knew, and we're not going to pretend as if rankings don't matter, I knew that I wanted to go into a particular area of law, and that's why I was going to law school. So I'll talk a little bit more about this in personal statements as well, but I think that it's important to know that lawyers are generalists and your first year of law school is going to pretty much look the same no matter where you go. However, if you know already applying that you have a strong interest in a particular area of law, I think that this proves very useful in helping to guide what schools you want to apply to and what schools you do not want to apply to. So while every law school, lawyers are generalists, certain law schools have reputations for being good in certain areas and fields of law, whether it's because of their faculty in that specific area, their programs, the amount of classes that they offer in that area. So for me, I'm very interested in public international law, international criminal law. So I looked at schools that had a plethora of programs and professors and opportunities in international law. So for starters, I really gravitated towards schools like Georgetown. I gravitated to schools like NYU. However, another big consideration for me was finances. And knowing that even if I didn't, for whatever reason, turn out to like international law or ever practice in international law, I knew that I had a strong public interest focus. So for me, law school is expensive, as we all know. And I'm going to talk a little bit about application fees too. But for me, I knew that certain law schools offer public interest merit-based scholarships. Now, they're few and far between, and they're super competitive. But that was a guiding force for me. I knew NYU has a plethora of public interest scholarships to apply for. American University is also good for international law, and they had a public interest scholarship. So I looked for schools that either had merit-based options that you could apply for separately or that you were automatically considered for, but also schools that just had a general reputation of giving good financial aid. And you can find this out, by the school's website, looking up scholarship opportunities, looking up the percent of students that are on financial aid and the average amount of aid that they receive. But you can also figure this out by just talking to students. And I think this is a very, very underlooked, advertised part of the law school admissions process is that the best people to talk to are current students. And so I would go on specific websites for different schools, and I would specifically look for Black women or students of color in general. And it's very easy to find people. It's 2018. So I would find them either on LinkedIn or I'd find them on Facebook, and I'd message them, give a very brief intro. Hi, my name is so-and-so. I am looking to apply this cycle. I'm interested in this, and I saw your name on this page of this website, of the school's website. Would you be willing to participate in like a short informational interview with me so I can learn more about your experience at the school? Very simple. I went overboard, and I basically did this, like NYU, I spoke to at least 5 different students. And I basically did this for almost every single school I applied to. And it really helped me weed out schools. So it didn't really help me add more schools to my list, but it definitely helped me remove schools. So I think I started out with about 15 schools on my list. And I eventually only applied to 8 schools. And I think it's good to also have a target school that is on par. Their average LSAT and their average GPA is on par with what you have. So like about 3 or 4 target schools. Then a few reach schools that are their average LSATs and average GPAs are way above what you have, but you're still interested in going there. And then some safety schools, which in the law school admissions process, nothing is really safe. So my safety schools were my alma maters. My safety schools were the schools that I attended in undergrad. I was a transfer student, so I had attended AU, but I had graduated from Howard University. And so I basically ended up applying to 8 schools, like I said. And I think it's important during this process of trying to figure out where you're applying to organize information. So I had an Excel sheet, and I have it up here. I organized schools by category. I would have the name, of course, their average LSAT, their average GPA, their tuition and their ranking, just so that I would know, their admissions representative, and the contact information for an admissions representative. This is also crucial because I attended a lot of info sessions around DC for different law schools, and at those info sessions you get to know admissions counselors on a one-on-one basis, and you get their card, get their information, so if you have any subsequent questions when you're applying, you can just contact the admissions person directly. So I had a slot for that in my Excel sheet. I also had a slot for any special programs or opportunities that I saw on their website that really appealed to me. And this really helped inform my personal statements, which I'll get into in a different video. In addition to this, I had a list of professors to contact and students to contact, and I would also tick off if I contacted them, so I would know who I contacted, which was also very crucial for interviews and for personal statements. And I had a section for if they had any merit scholarships, what were the scholarship requirements and the deadline, any special notes about the school that I needed to know. For example, are they rolling or do they have a hard deadline? Most law schools are rolling at this point, but just any special notes like that, or you need to make sure you include this in an addendum based on conversations with admissions counselors. In addition to this, I had the amount of letters of recommendation that they required, their deadline, their firm hard deadline, and then I also had my personal deadline to apply to that school. And last but not least, I had the application fee. Now, most schools are about $65 to $85, sometimes even $95 to apply to. And this is not including the $30 that you have to pay to the Law School Admissions Council, LSAC, for them to release what's called your law school report to each school that you apply to. And your law school report is just them combining your personal statements, the unique application for that specific school, and also just all of your GPA according to LSAC, and just all your quantitative materials into one place, and they just send it off to every law school you apply to. So that costs $30 in addition to each school's individual application fee. So you can see how this adds up. So I remember when I first did my original tally, it was going to cost me about $900 something to apply to law schools. It ended up costing me way less than that. And one thing I will say that it's very important, on LSAT, there's a place where you can check off to send your scores to law schools, and you basically waive your right so that law schools can see your LSAT score. Check this box off, because what happens is that based on your LSAT score, they also get information that you put in about your demographics, about what type of law you're interested in. Fill all that information out on your LSAT profile, because law schools will start reaching out to you with fee waivers. So the first time I took the LSAT, as I mentioned in my previous video, didn't do that crazy hot. I got a few fee waivers, but it was usually to schools that I had no interest in applying to. Second time I took the LSAT, I got a flood of fee waivers. So these fee waivers apply to the application fee of the specific school. It doesn't apply to the $30 fee that, regardless, even if you get a fee waiver to a school, you're going to have to pay LSAC $30 to release your scores. I know. But it is a huge financial, weight off your shoulders if you do get these fee waivers. And honestly, some of these fee waivers are what made me apply to certain schools. So Duke, for instance, I applied because they had a like priority application, and you would get a decision within 14 days, and you didn't have to pay to apply. So I remember I applied to Duke, like was the first school I submitted, I believe. No, sorry, Harvard and NYU were the first schools I submitted because they're the ones that I really wanted to go to. Another thing that I would say that really helped inform my decision making was reaching out to professors. This is kind of like iffy because I eventually got like a note from Harvard like, stop reaching out to all our professors, because I went a little bit overboard. But in general, I would recommend reaching, if there's a professor at the school that you would like love to do research on, or they're the person who's in charge of a specific clinic that you're interested in or something, reach out to the professors. Some people will tell me, no, it's a busy time, I'm in the midst of grading, or I'm traveling or something. Fine. Other professors, you'd be surprised, are just willing to hop on the phone with you. And so they were a little bit confused. They were like, so are you a student yet? Are you not? Are you accepted yet? And I'm like, no, I'm just, applying this cycle and I'm very interested. But one thing is, don't waste professors' time. Come prepared with a set list of questions. Same thing with students as well. Students are busy too. Come with very specific questions that you have, and don't, beat around the bush. Don't waste a lot of time on introducing yourself. Just go straight to the point, and you'd be surprised. So the information I learned from certain professors really, I didn't have a strong interest in applying to Harvard Law, but after talking to, for instance, the head of their human rights clinic, I knew that I had to apply. So things like that. And then I would then mention these professors, and in some cases, the students, in either my personal statement or my interview. Just briefly, nothing major, but I would name drop. I would say, after speaking to this professor, I was even more interested, or I learned more about XYZ. And it came up in my interviews a lot. They're like, have you spoken to anyone here? Or they would mention something, and I'm like, oh yeah, I spoke to so-and-so, and they told me about that. And the interviewer was like, you spoke to who? About what? Oh, okay. Because a lot of times, the people that interview you also end up being the people that are supposed to connect you to resources when you set foot on campus if you get accepted. So one of my interviewers, I think it was my Harvard interview, she was like, well, it looks like you've already done my job for me. Disclaimer, I did not get into Harvard. So I think it's good. The main thing with all of this, though, is that there was a student at NYU that told me this, and it stuck with me throughout my entire application process, which is, a lot of times, as minority students, we have this feeling of like, well, this is their LSAT, this is their GPA, why even waste my breath or my time or my energy applying to the school? Why pay the application fee? Why bother? They're just going to throw my application in the trash. Like, we could be very self-deprecating. And again, I think it's because we oftentimes don't see ourselves in this process. And there was an NYU student who told me, apply with the same amount of privilege you would have if you were not a minority in America. Like, and I feel like you guys will understand what I mean by that, saying that apply as if you deserve to belong to these schools, because you do. So when she told me that, it kind of broke loose. I had gotten rid of a lot of schools. Columbia was not on my list. It got added back pretty last minute, and I applied kind of just like, phew, put that in the atmosphere, like, who knows? And it was definitely a reach school. My stats were not on par with their average stats of the previous class, and I got accepted, and I got accepted with a little bit of grant money. So this is all to say that just apply because you want to go and because you know you deserve to be there. And yes, okay, don't put all your eggs, don't apply to 10 reach schools and 1 safety school. That's not smart. But yeah, apply to those reach schools and believe that you can get into those schools, and you would honestly be shocked. So yeah, that's my advice on like choosing law schools, deciding what schools to add to your list. Just in case you guys want to know, the 8 schools that I applied to were AU, as I mentioned, Columbia, obviously, Duke, as I mentioned, Georgetown, as I mentioned, Harvard, Howard, as I mentioned, NYU, and then the only school I didn't mention, I guess, is the University of Pennsylvania, which I was waitlisted for. And I was waitlisted to NYU as well. So I will talk a little bit more about waitlist in another video. So I hope this was useful to you. If you guys have any comments or questions, just comment below. And feel free to send me emails at blacklawapplicants@gmail.com, and feel free to message me with suggestions for other videos. All right, bye.